Exposure to radiation hasn't always been considered the health hazard it is today. At the turn of the 20th century, patients were lining up at the doctor's office to be treated by a new crop of inventions that absolutely radiated with the promise of miracle cures. The field of medicine has produced the lion's share of failed inventions. And until 2002, Minneapolis collector Bob McCoy showcased more than 250,000 bizarre gadgets at his Museum of Questionable Medical Devices. The discovery of the radioactive element radium in 1898 spawned dozens of lethal medical inventions.
People wonder why there are so many radium inventions. I think it's because it was a popular thing in the beginning of the 20th century. It had a certain sense of vitality and energy. Not only did they sell radium products thinking they're going to make you healthy, they also tied it in with sexuality. They were making radioactive athletic supporters for weak, sagging men. They were drying out boars' testicles and making them radioactive to improve your romantic talent. They were making radium suppositories for men or women. A whole line of goofy stuff like this were being sold.
Fast talkers attributed all manner of benefits to this hot fad.
In the beginning of the 20th century, radium was big business. It was imported, for the most part, from Europe. Here's a grocery store selling radioactive water, claiming you have the invisible hand of Mother Nature in your body to make you healthy. This was called the Cosmos Radioactive Pad, marketed to people who had arthritis, with a promise that it relieved the pain of arthritis. Oddly enough, on the back it says, "Warning, do not open this and eat the contents of this bag." Who would want to eat a bag of radium? This is a device called the Revigator. It's a standard crock, but it's lined with radium on the inside walls to make your water radioactive. It didn't promise any medical cures, it just made you feel good. Why go to spas in Europe when you can stay home and drink this wonderful radioactive water? All of this was going fine until a fellow in Pittsburgh began marketing these little bottles of Radiator to improve your romantic talent. A man in Pittsburgh drank 1,400 bottles of this. His upper and lower jaw fell off. That's when they realized this radium cannot be sold willy-nilly, that it was dangerous.
Like radium, the X-ray also spawned a host of potentially lethal creations.
The X-ray is discovered in 1896 and put into use almost immediately, and it seems miraculous to people. But then, as often happens with these technologies, they get a little warped and people begin loading on more expectations on top of them. Things snowball and go skidding off the road and become ludicrous at best and sometimes lethal at worst.
Yes, in the early 1920s, when X-ray became popular, physicians, unfortunately, had X-rays in their offices in which the tube is exposed. They're standing behind patients looking up and down with a fluoroscope. That injured and killed many physicians from long exposure to Röntgen rays. Then they went to X-ray machines that would remove superfluous hair. A fellow invented a machine that would remove superfluous hair. Women sat in front of this, an average of 20 treatments at $10 a treatment. It killed hundreds of women, injured thousands.
In the 1940s and 50s, unsuspecting shoe buyers also exposed themselves to harmful doses of X-rays. The culprit this time was the Adrian shoe fitting machine, designed to determine a customer's precise size.
The appeal was to see your own toes wiggling in your shoes and seeing, oh, those are my toes. And to see if your shoes were too narrow or too short or too wide or too long.
The company in Milwaukee produced about 10,000 of these things. And even though they were lead lined, there was no lead shielding around either the ports into which you put your feet or the various viewing ports. It had 3 of them, one for the customer, one for the shoe salesman, and one for parents in case they were buying shoes for their child. The amount of X-ray leakage is rather alarming.
Once radiation leakage was confirmed in 1950, the government ordered the machines destroyed. Like the X-ray, electricity inspired scads of misguided medical applications. This mysterious force made possible such health aids as the prostate gland warmer.
It was patented in 1918. It's supposed to excite a man's abdominal brain. Did you know men had abdominal brains? The U.S. Patent Office says we do. Now, the wattage of this bulb controls how warm this will be. This is a 25-watt bulb, and this doesn't get too hot. Actually, this didn't do anything.
Of equally dubious value was the Spectra Chrome. Inventor Dinshaw Gadiali developed this device in the 1920s to cure a variety of maladies. He theorized that exposing the afflicted to the Spectra Chrome's colored lights could cure or relieve them of more than 280 different ailments.
It's a big aluminum cabinet on a stand, and it has 8 different colored lights on it. They're well made, they have a fan in them, and people like to sit in the colored lights. But to make it work, the patient has to sit in front of this in the dark, facing north, under certain moon phases in the nude.
Green light was purported to be a pituitary stimulant. Yellow, a nerve builder. Red was said to energize the liver.
If you had pancreatic cancer, for instance, you use the lemon and indigo lights. Well, if you have pancreatic cancer, no colored lights are going to cure you.
The Spectra Chrome succeeded only in infusing those wealthy enough to afford the device with false hope. Perhaps the oddest product ever marketed to the more health-conscious consumer was the Smokeless Cigarette. In 1988, the R.J. Reynolds Company introduced the Premier as a revolutionary nicotine delivery system.
The notion was a smokeless cigarette. It wouldn't involve burning tobacco, but rather a element that would produce the flavor of tobacco in your mouth through a plastic tube. Sucking on this thing, they said, was enough to promote a hernia. The taste of it was compared to burning lettuce. Even the president of R.J. Reynolds admitted that the Premier tasted like crap.
Consumer apathy quickly extinguished the Premier, and more than $300 million in research and marketing costs went up in smoke. The track record of investors trying to predict consumer trends has always been spotty at best. Their vision of our future has included robots and spaceship-shaped houses. What happened?